to have you here again. So the aim of this panel discussion, and it encompasses one of the former ministers, one of the legal advisors to the minister, hopefully another guest who is an expert on environmental issues within mining, and also someone who is active in that field. We've talked a lot about the potential of Somaliland, its geological setting and the interest that it has, and the kind of infrastructure that is there, potential. But what are the sort of pitfalls? What is the gaps that need to be filled, that attracts foreign direct investment, that has best practices, licenses, regulatory authorities? There's a whole sort of ingredients that goes into baking what is a world-class sort of product or a cake. So what ingredients do we have? What's lacking? All those kind of things. So I think the cake analogy is very good because I can see a few hungry faces here. We'll explore that. So I would like to call, first of all, Abdurrahman Ismail, who has enormous international experience and is a legal advisor, not just in this country, but internationally as well, and really can give us a global picture on that whole issue of regulatory authority and welcoming FDI. And also His Excellency Hussein Abdi Douala, who is the former Minister of Energy and Minerals and started this very, very much himself. And also Mr. Syed Ahmed Rahamatullah Ahmed, who is the CEO and Chairman of Invictus Multi-Commodities. So very nice to have you. And I think hopefully we may be joined by Intisar, who is an expert in environmental and mining expert. So is the glass, let me ask you with a general question, is the glass half full or is it half empty? And from each of your perspectives, what is that, if you were to draw a ledger, I'm a great believer when you make real choices in life as an individual, as a community, even as a country. You get a blank piece of paper, you draw a line in the middle, and you say, what are the pluses and what's missing? So let me ask you, what's the positives, but also what is really needed? First of all, you, Abdurrahman.
Thank you very much, Ragi Omar. Tough question, but I'll make an effort. Just to explain this, I will use two statements I've had from different people, one of them today, and one a few months ago. A Danish diplomat, senior diplomat based in Nairobi, was here at the ministry, and he said he met a former CEO of the American Geological Society. And he said, in my life, as a Top Gun geologist, I have never seen geological maps like Somaliland. Never. And today, we have one of the people participating in the conference, a Top Gun scientist, the second, third cadre generation of Isaac Newton, and he went to the expo. The man has, under his name, so many patents, I think about 60-something patents. And when he went to the expo, he says, I didn't know this. You are rich, really rich. That's my answer to your question.
Yes. So go ahead and introduce yourself again, please.
Yeah, my name is Sayed Diab. I'm the CEO of the Invictus Multi-Commodities DMCC, based in Dubai, in the Gold Tower in DMCC. Invictus work in various countries. My background is a telecommunication engineer, yes, but we work very closely with, as a company, with institutions in Africa, central banks, and big mining company. As a trader, lifting gold from Africa to Dubai. So being an African, myself from Sudan, I can say the potential that I have seen in this day, only one day in Somaliland, is very high. Like all the participants in the expo, they are showing case of, like, for us as a traders, we are seeing money on the tables. Like this kind of resources is very high resources, to be honest, and is second to none. So we are very excited, and we want to help and invest in this country, and we want to work closely with the ministry to build maybe the first gold refinery in Somaliland. Yes.
Thank you, Saeed. Your Excellency, Hussein, I mean, the people have to realize mining is a very long game. Mineral exploration, from the life of, from exploration to actual production, especially if we're talking about the scale and grades of the kind of resources here. Sometimes it takes 10 years for a major, developer before the mine is in production. So I hate to be the spoil sport as a journalist, that's my role, but sometimes I have to tell people when they come to Somalia, listen, it's very exciting, but just calm down a little bit, wait a little bit. So let me ask you from that perspective, because it is exciting and we want to attract people, but people have to also realize it's a long game for the country, for them as investors, for the local community and everything else.
First off, I just want to thank the minister for setting this great, expo to really basically highlight the need and the opportunities of our mineral sector. I want to go back to Rago's initial question: do you think the glass is half empty or half full? My opinion is definitely it's half full. The reason I'm saying this is, like Rage said, mining and extracting oil and gas is a long game. It takes a while. And we've been around for a while now, waiting for something to happen. And for about 50 years now, Somalis will always say, "Dalkayga nimca fadhida." Well, that nimca has to come out at some point, right? And I think it just so happens that Mr. Barre, our current energy minister, is probably the guy who's going to oversee something coming out of the ground. So, as far as really the glass being half full, the reason I'm saying this is we have gone through several steps that needed to be taken to be in today where we think we're ever so closer to really get something out of the ground. We have established a regulatory system in place. We have a lot of pluses that's going for us. We are sitting in one of the most important strategic areas in the world to be able to really reach international markets. We've done the baseline information, but we still have some more work to do before we start asking when are we going to get stuff out of the ground. I have really been tickled, really happy with the speakers before, the two speakers, Brian and Mahmoud, that really basically just really made my day. Those are the things that we really need to really get moving on. And nothing can move without data. We need data. We have been basically talking about our resources, but we still lack bankable data that an investor can come and hang his hat on. And I think we're getting there to really get that data. I'm very happy about what Mohammed said about getting a lab and a certified lab here in Somaliland. I'm really, really happy about that. So I think we're having the building blocks under Mr. Barre to be really happening here soon. And I think with the regulatory system in place, with the desire to really move forward with the other elements that really need to be taken, I think right now all we have to really get is to get the investors to show them that we do have something to sell. And I think the most important thing, if I have to really mark one thing that's still missing, is bankable data. That is what we need.
Thank you very much indeed. And I think we should just echo very much to Minister Barre for organizing this, and long may it's a huge success, organized very quickly, and it's already generated a huge amount of energy and focus. So I think you've got a very high bar you've set yourself for next year, but it's all very good. I think it's also just very encouraging, let's be honest, I mean, in Africa, that you have several, generations of leaders who have plowed the furrow and who are still here to, support this government. And, political parties win elections and they lose elections. But when the last minister, the last minister before that, and the last is here to support it, that speaks volumes as well, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I thought it was just a comment. I didn't know it was a question. But it will suffice to say that that is the interesting aspect of the uniqueness of Somaliland. They were not invited. It may just have been out, they were either not available or out of the country. I remember former President Musa Fiki and former President Rayad Al-Kahni were out of the country. But Somaliland's democratic tradition and patriotism, it's another level. They would have been here. So hardly do you find all former presidents, former ministers freely interacting for the cause of the nation. The two former presidents were in Dubai the other day, and you could see how cozy they were with each other. That's an amazing spirit of nationalism. Thank you.
Syed, is it your first time to Somaliland?
Second time.
Second time, but one of the first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is what Abdurrahman and Minister Duale is sort of saying, is that important for an investor or someone interested in commodities? That kind of, how can I put it, political and national environment?
100%. Investment always look for stability. Somaliland, yet it is a new blood or new country coming to Africa after South Sudan. We can see this is my second time. I can see the is always speaking about investment and speaking about like building a nation, and nation transformation will only start with mineral and resources. Exactly what they speak about, it will encourage investor and give them because investment always like we are seeing we go only to the safest and stable places. So I can claim that Somaliland is one of the safest countries that I visit.
Thank you very much. Abdurrahman, I mean, you've worked internationally extensively within IGAD, at, national and international levels as a legal advisor and a sort of with commercial insights. What for you now working within the sort of government at a senior level, especially with the minister, what are the gaps that you think that needs to sort of be tightened, or is it all moving in the right direction? I mean, data takes time, but I mean, what for you, can I say, not keeps you up at night because there's a lot of positive things, but what are the things that, the gaps that need to be filled, do you think, that can be realistically filled quickly?
Thank you very much. Roger, with your permission, I think it's best to put things in context in order to answer your question. First of all, what do typically investors, especially for mining, investments in mining, what do they look for? What are the boxes that a country must tick? And then I will say them, and I'll tell you what the gaps are. Number one, every investor in the mining sector, number one priority looks at the geology, prospectivity. That's why I talked about the two guys in Somaliland. So Somaliland is highly endowed, highly prospective. It lies in the Mozambican belt, in the Yemeni plateau belt. All the ingredients from historical data, from all sources, from artisanal mining to the science that has been done already. So geology, Somaliland, and prospectivity, that box Somaliland ticks, bold tick. The next thing they look at is the place stable and secure, because you don't want to be in a place where tomorrow all your investments get lost because there is force majeure. So Somaliland is stable. It has been stable 34 years. So on that note, more than any other country in Africa, including the most stable countries, again, Baltic. The third thing then they look for, after those, then they say, wow, let's go to Somaliland. But then they look at, well, there are many competing jurisdictions. What else do they look for? They look at the governance architecture. Are the laws predictable? Are they transparent? Are they fair? Those kind of things. Is the fiscal regime beneficial, balancing the benefit between the people and the government and the investor who wants returns on investments? Again, and the Kenyans are here and many other people from other jurisdictions, the boss of the mining, the Ministry of Mining in Kenya is here. Somaliland ticks that governance architecture with its laws, policies, and fiscal regimes, and the index to do business, tick, gold tick. And finally, what they look at is the last thing is access and position. How close, how easy is it to get to market? And again, Somaliland is just on the Bab al just a stone throw, a Gulf of Aden. So market, demand markets, commodity market, very easy to go to Dubai and so forth. So Somaliland ticks all those things. It has a good, everything is in its favor. But what are the challenges? Number one, and again I need the Somalilanders to hear this. Number one, mining is not a joker's business. It requires investments.
Very big ones.
Yeah. So don't mortgage your country just because you have a little investor who has come, taking everything and leaving you with little money. So that I see there is the urge and reawakening by very many Somalilanders who just want to invest. Any joker who comes in town with a little bit of money, they want to jump in and ask for a license. That is a very dangerous thing. Resources are finite. You will be left with peace. So that's one challenge. So the awareness. The second thing is the ministry is young ministry, the budget is small, and mining can be, Somaliland relies 60% of the GDP is on one's livestock sector, exports. Mining can be very transformative, and this ministry needs to be resourced, because for them to collect revenues, to do inspections, to check environment, they need to send geologists, they need to send mining inspectors, they need to do many things, and their budget is shoestring. So those are challenges. And finally, and lastly, the Somaliland people and the people also foreigners who are doing mining, please be honest. The integrity of the process is important. If you under-declare or don't declare, basically you are stealing from this nation. The mothers who cannot go to hospital, and you're taking their resources, your conscience must be pricked by this. Thank you.
In some ways, what holds Somaliland back, I don't think they put it like that. One of the things that people will be surprised about for Somaliland is that you're starting from scratch. I mean, you and I have been talking about this for a number of 4 years ago, there was nothing going on in mining. I mean, artisanal, but not where we are today. It's moved very quickly. But that in itself is one of the most, to me, speaking as a journalist, one of the most interesting and positive things, because it's very hard to undo when you set bad precedents 10 years on, when there's bad practice, bad laws, lack of transparency. You look at examples all over Africa, 10, 15 years on when there's oil and gas and minerals, very hard to undo all of that. But here, you can get it right at the early stage in the beginning. So that you can either take the Qatar and Singapore model, or you can take, I don't want to insult anyone. the other example. It's the blank slate of someone is actually the positive.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some of the people here, when I talk to them about Somaliland and the lack of recognition and all that, and I've done that elsewhere because I speak about Somaliland with passion, just like all the Somalilanders do, but I think I take it a little bit higher. When I speak about Somaliland, and I was speaking to some of them, including Madam Kimberly Poole, who sang here earlier, they say, but that's positive. What Somalilanders think recognition it's a debt-free country. It's starting on a good footing from zero. Everything can be put on the right footing. And if we do all the things right, and I think Minister and your team are doing a great job, I'm not saying because you have hired me. Of course, I am happy that you hired me. And I don't want to be fired. But I think I am enthused, I am optimistic about the measures that you have taken. Thank you.
Minister, you've been there, very early on with the first sort of more in the oil and gas sort of sector. Would you agree that, the good thing about Somaliland is that everything that's been built here has been built authentically from inside. It's not NGOs and aid agencies and foreign, etc., etc. What exists is real and not, from outside. Is that a positive?
Yes, when I came to the ministry and where it is today, I think this is the third minister now that's just have taken office in Somaliland Energy and Mining. There has been significant development, significant progress that has been done, all the while without any tangible help from the world, be it international organizations or anything like that. We just pulled ourselves by our bootstraps and knew what we knew, did the best we can to get it to where we are today. And every one of these ministers that were, after me have done their piece to really kind of kick it up a notch, to really go to the next level. I think right now we're on the cusp, we're really on the cusp of really interesting international, tangible, serious investors on our resources. And to do that now, we have to go to the next step of providing bankable data. We really need to basically be able to sell. We have to really map the country, do a thorough geological mapping, and be able to really identify not just only occurrences, which what we have for the most part, but say, this is a serious prospect. And then they can really go after it. And then we can really prove something. The only thing that's really happening right now in Somaliland to speak of is that gold mining in Sinag. That's about it. And why are we just being held up? Why are we not really doing more mining? Because we need targets. We have to get targets.
But even when you have targets, and Saeed, I want to ask you this, we can't go through this discussion without talking about the R word, the recognition word, right? So when you're from the outside and you see this fantastic geology, it's there, as Abdurrahman was saying, the Mozambique Belt and the Red Sea Hills, it's all there in confluence of what you get in Sudan, Saudi Arabia, all the way down to Kenya and beyond. Okay, the geology is in no doubt. But then you look and say, well, this country actually doesn't exist. Now, does that hold someone like you and investors back? It must do to a certain extent, but as your American compatriots say, money finds a way.
Exactly. Any mining company that go to any jurisdiction, they should have in mind that if they start today, they need to work for 25 years. There is some mining in Africa that is still producing, and it is the age of mining is 50 years. So it is not hit and run business. It is sustainable business. If you are not recognized today, maybe being as an investor in the country, I can help the country to be recognized, because gold by its own, for example, in my country, Sudan, is producing today around 100 ton. 100 ton of gold is $14 billion. $14 billion that will go directly to the GDP of the country. It will facelift. It will exactly the nation will 100% be transformed from one place to another, in education, in healthcare, in all the aspects. So as investors, I'm not seeing my plan is not 1 or 2 or 3 years.
But does the lack of recognition impact your vision and your plans? You know, the fact that, you know, it doesn't exist, does that worry anyone?
It will not worry. It will not be,
Because it's being recorded.
yeah. So as I can describe myself as with a scale mining company, this is exactly the right opportunity to fight and to work in such environment that we can have. I'm not saying that because of the big large scale companies not working because they have their own problems, but and recognizing the country is one of the problems. But as a medium scale company, I can move, but that will not bother me.
I mean, the recognition thing is, in fact, probably, do you think it's the other way round? That this is actually, global resources and critical resources are a geopolitical question. So in some ways, it's a bit irrelevant, isn't it? I mean, the recognition issue.
Recognition is a matter that needs delicate thinking around it. I talked to Kenya's former Minister of Foreign Affairs at one time, and about Somaliland. And now he's Speaker of the Parliament, Moses, the Tango. And he said, what are you doing? I I'm the one who authorized the opening of the Kenyan Somaliland office in Kenya. We are doing business with you. We're sending our teachers. We're giving you visas on your passport. What is recognition? Why are you preoccupied with Of course, recognition has challenges because then you have some jokers who purport to control this country and introduce, they're trying to with e-visa. I can say this because I'm not a politician, so very easily I can comment about some jokers who, like you said, the divorce story. So those constraints are real. But in practice, investors, when they want something, I said stability. I didn't mention recognition.
Exactly,
in the criteria. So Somaliland is peaceful, it's stable, it is secure, it is democratic. Okay? And it's doing this there is something called democratic traditions indices. And Somaliland is in the first tier with 4 countries, 3 other countries. Botswana, Namibia, and Mauritius. 4 and Somaliland. It's ahead of everybody else, the 50 countries, in terms of democratic indices. So in terms of recognition, it does not stop investment. Of course, some investors initially said, some people, when they hear Somali, and sometimes I wonder, why don't you just change the name?
Yeah.
But then they say, that's our name. We can't change it because somebody else is nagging us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The other thing that, everything that you've said of that checklist is absolutely critical and important. And there's one sub-box, I think, that is also critical for successful mining, in addition to all that. And that's community involvement. You can have all the licenses you want in the world, and you know that from Sudan. You can go wherever, but if people there don't like it, you ask Rio Tinto Zinc in Australia and what happened to them with the Aboriginal community and the caves that they if you don't have that level of community engagement. So are you happy that that's looked after and is at the center of the table in this? What is it? Community involvement and engagement.
That is also one thing. First of all, I want to just get back to the issue of recognition. The issue of recognition did not come into play when I was there, and we had international companies that are publicly traded in London. Places like London Stock Exchange, have a big legal department, have a board that were able to really basically say, that's fine, we can really sign up with these guys. So like Abdurrahman said, if you have what the investor is looking for, which is what Abdurrahman said, 1, 2, 3, and we have all of those, the only thing that's left is basically just show him something that he have to get interested in. And that is information, data, that he can really just say, I'm willing to put my money here. So I think recognition will something good to have, but I don't think it's a showstopper as far as I see it.
Abdurrahman, local community engagement, but obviously the impact of Somaliland's absolutely wild democratic tradition is that even if you wanted to avoid it, you can't, which is a good thing. Do you think that how important is it, I mean, in terms of this, the local content, local buy-in?
Absolutely. Community engagement is at the heart that we are talking about belongs to them. Secondly, for whom are we developing this country? Communities. So they own the resources, they determine the future, the people are important. So engaging with them is critical. There are challenges which are not unique to Somaliland, but the beauty with this country, however challenging community engagement sometimes can be, and sometimes disruptions, which are not really major. A few, hitches here and there, any problem in Somaliland is resolvable because it has a tradition of dialogue. That's what's the beauty of this country. Any problem, you will always get somebody who will be able to speak to the others. If I want to go to Gabile or someplace, and I have with me Mohammed Yonis, if I have a challenge, Minister Mohammed B, Your Excellency, I will be fine. Okay? You know the problem gets resolved. So they are always like say, who are the people whom we can talk to about you? But like I said, one of the challenges with the community is they haven't understood, and the ministry has not had enough resources to conduct community engagements and do community policing. That's why communities do not understand. They say this is ours. So what do you want to do about it? First of all, they don't understand the concept that all minerals in the country belong to the state. That concept is alien. But they don't understand the government is theirs. So that kind of education requires resources. People should understand that the benefits. And the law takes care of them very well. How do communities benefit? Sorry, I'm speaking a little longer. One, there is something called community engagement at the outset before one gets a license. So the social license, that's important. And they get benefit from that as well. Although that benefit, it goes to a few of the leaders. Subsequently, there are community development projects, agreements, CDA, and communities are entitled to a certain percentage of the company's revenues. In different countries, and I think even in Somaliland, it's 1% of the revenue from mining. And that's there, and it can be a lot of money. And then, of course, there's royalties, which they benefit. And lastly, there are local content regulations, employment and training, as well as procurement of local goods and services. These are regulations which directly benefit communities. Sorry, I took long.
No, it's good. The other issue, and I'm going to go to you first, and then to Saeed, and then to Abdurrahman. I don't know how much longer we have. We talked about Somaliland's real gift of a moment is that it has the ability to build this secure base now so that things can be built on in 20, 30, 50 years' time, right? Is it a holistic approach, though? Because it's not just the mining laws. There has to be a whole vision for the extractive industry, for taxation, for industrial policy, for environment. So is there enough? How important is coordination across the whole issue of governance to make sure that when any investor comes, they know absolutely the whole waterfall of regulations and it's consistent?
It's a very, very important item that you pointed out, Rage. I would really say that we're just on baseline as far as building blocks of governance. We have the base. We have the base. It's just basically I would be disingenuous to tell you that our legal regimes are, mature and there is no holes in them, or our fiscal regimes are really basically top of the line. There is always room for improvement because we're just a growing little country. We just been here, what, 30 some odd years, 34 years? So there is always room to improve the governance in terms of the management itself at the ministry level, or in terms of the government at large, or the legal regimes, or the fiscal regimes. And you always have to understand you're not alone that have resources, natural resources. You have what you call competition. If the guy who comes in through the door and you talk to him about you have this and that, and the terms are not conducive, hey, you're gonna say bye, he's gonna go next door. So we always have to understand we have to be competitive. We have to be competitive in terms of our fiscal regimes, in terms of our governors, in terms of streamlining our bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is always a bad thing. It kills business. And we have a way of bureaucracy here. We have to improve it.
Thank you very much. Saeed, go ahead, and then Abdurrahman.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can talk about the community first, the local community is very important for an investor, especially in this domain of mining, especially in gold. Everybody is speaking about big data. Help the investors through the artisanal mining to give some indications there is minerals here. So this is very important because if you want to build a block, you need maybe 2 to 3 years of analysis to get at the data. But sometimes the active community will help and guide you through the artisanal mining that there is a good amount of resources here. Yet they will take the service and they will damage the block service, but they will give you data. And this is an advantage we can see. Governance is very important. African continent, all the African continent share the same issues of the privacy, of the lack of the governance. But it is a nation wealth that it should be addressed and recognized as a nation wealth. That it should. For example, I'm working in Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, central banks working with the Ministry of Mining, working with the Ministry of Finance, all in the same table to offer the mining or the gold to the investors. So again, as Mr. Abdurrahman said, we look for a regulatory that is solid. We look for players that is safe for investment in terms of even the Minister of, for example, Finance has changed, but we deal with the Ministry of Finance. So that is very important. And because, Alhamdulillah, in Somaliland, we don't have this, but other African countries that we work with, all the time there is coup, for example, in Niger, in Guinea Conakry, in Mali. So you don't know who will come tomorrow. So you need to be very careful when you do contracts, because personal view is always there in these countries. You work for 2 3 years, things change. So the governance here, I can say because of the stability you have, it's will improve. And the ministry and the advisors are very resilient that they can develop things and push things forward. And saying that, I think, yes, there is a lot of gaps, but what I can say today, what I can see and say today, you are progressing, and this is very good.
Abdurrahman.
Thank you. Let me say 2 things. Number one, in terms of the governance architecture, including laws, regulations, best practice, everything, Somaliland has everything that it requires and is comparable to any jurisdiction. And I've worked in other jurisdictions, and Kenyans will bear me witness. I helped Kenya deal with the same things. And the head of mining in Kenya is sitting in front of us. It compares well with many jurisdictions, including very advanced ones, if not better. I can tell you for free. in terms of the fiscal regime, it is much more attractive than many jurisdictions, including the most attractive and most advanced jurisdictions. Some things that Somalilanders will not, very interesting stuff, is that the Somaliland shilling, for example, you go to the market and look, oh, what kind of currency? Who's going to carry a wheelbarrow of money? But this currency has very interesting dynamics. It's a stable currency. If you want to send money to Jigjiga, and I have seen Kenyan parliamentarians I came with who have relatives in Jigjiga, they say, please don't send the money to Jigjiga, send it to Tokwachare on the Somaliland side. I'd rather get the money in Somaliland shillings, which is transferable, which is predictable, than to get it in Ethiopian birr. Ethiopia is a big economy. So Somaliland's economy is truly market-driven and resilient. I am simply amazed, even as an economist. But the challenge with all these good things that we talked about in terms of architecture, there is need for education, public education, but also within government and coherence, because Ministry of Energy and Minerals cannot work alone in administering this. There is Ministry of Finance and Taxation and Royalties, and sometimes they don't understand. Now we are crossing, together with the Minister, Engineer Barre and the DG, we have engaged the Ministry of Finance, and we are now at the higher level, we are together. We understand each other. But before, they were doing their own things. And sometimes this can be constraining. We need to do environment. The same coordination across government so that there is coordination and coherence in a seamless manner. That has been challenged. And of course, the people and the miners and industry players, all those things have to understand that this is a rule-based game and we must play by the rules.
Thank you very much, Abdul. So I think we should sort of think about our concluding thoughts very much with our audience in mind. If to sum up, where you think we are, what your sort of hopes and visions are for the future, where you think we may be at the next Somaliland Minerals Expo, or where you hope we will be, okay? So let me start in again the same order with you, Usip.
We're not in a bad place, to be honest. I think Minister Barre is well on his way to, make some serious achievements in the coming year or two. We have the oil sector that the President announced that we're going to be spudding our first well come, first quarter of 27, and we have all these arrangements that the ministry is working on in terms of it's a lab, it's going to be mapping the country and basically defining targets that we can really basically sell to investors. We have all other elements in place. Only thing that we just need to improve on is the bureaucracy in terms of kind of the government is in cohesion when we're talking about working with the companies and international companies. I think we're in a pretty good place. It's just a matter of focus. I would say the ministry have to really focus on capacity building, get the Kenyan chief of minerals is here, and we have a lot to learn from him. Some of the guys he sent to Kenya and vice versa, and learn all the basic technical skills that will really move this mining effort forward. We need to really basically just make sure that we really work on defining reserves, finding things that we can really sell to investors. We can't say there are occurrences here and there. That we have done it now, so we have to go to the next phase, and I think we're getting there.
Said, concluding thoughts. Where do you think we should be next year, and where do you think what you hope we will get to?
I really hope next year to see Somaliland Expo, not only in Somaliland, in Dubai as well, and in for example, Turkey. We want to see an active marketing team in the ministry coming to visit all these areas, because with investor, with a long-term partnership, things will data will build, things will go further with the mistake, error people are making. They will be resilient, and they will build on their try and error. But overall, there is a lot of gold, a lot of minerals in Somaliland that God has gifted to this country. People need to work together to tackle the problems and open the country to the local and international investors.
Thank you. My vision for Somaliland is really bright. I see optimism. I see a great future for Somaliland. The minister today elaborated the measures already taken, but what are the plans that are already, for institutional frameworks that are being established? He enumerated quite a bit on every aspect. He talked about the online cadastre system, which will make licensing and control very efficient and revenue collection. He talked about the mining police, which will deal with illegal mining and all these pilferages. He talked about everything. So in terms of institutions, and you have seen that a conference that is organized in the middle of December, a week away from Christmas, 10 days thereabouts, and with this level of engagement, and people committed and impressed and wanting to invest, I see pride. I see a good future. And what do they say? The words of the Somaliland national anthem. A lot of sacrifice has gone with this, which is I greet you with the honor of those fallen heroes. Gesiyashi, naftooda u sadqeeyey, xuskooda dhowrsan ayaan kugu salaamay.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed to my guests, to Saeed, to Abdurrahman, to Hussein, and please give them a big round of applause for a great session.